This is a short video on how to use the template that I created for the two-stage dividend growth model. The key things about this template is the cells that are highlighted or has a background of light green are input cells, and typically you don't want to touch any other cell. Now, in any dividend growth model, we have some inputs. One of the inputs is the required rate of return. So let's say 10%. Another input is terminal growth rate, which means after we enter the projected dividends for a few years or maybe just for 1 year, what is the constant growth rate that we're expecting? Let's put in 3%. Then we need to enter the known dividends. Let's say for the hell of it, we know or we can project the dividends for the following 3 years. And after that, we are going to assume the terminal growth rate. By default, there's a space only for year one dividend. If you want to add, go to this green plus button, 1, 2. It automatically enters year one, year two, and year two dividends. Enter those numbers, such as, for example, this company is going to pay a dividend of $1 next year, 1.5 after that, 1.75 after that. As you can see, automatically it's calculated what the value will be. If I change any one of the inputs, that value is going to change as well. Now, technically speaking, I am treating the market value as an unknown. It's kind of a little trick that I did to make sure that it's highlighted in rose or has a rose colored background. Now, suppose you are confident about your dividend projections and you would like to know what would be the implied required rate of return given a market price. Let's say this company has the market price, and let's make our unknown required rate of return using this drop down box under the given market value. Now it highlighted required rate of return as it's unknown. Suppose this company is actually trading at $20. What is the implied required rate of return? Well, that's 1181. If you think that's too high, then that means the company is undervalued. If you think that's too much, and if you think it's too little, the company is overvalued. Alternatively, given the required rate of return, you may want to look for the terminal growth rate. This is the constant growth rate of dividends that you're projecting after, in this case, 3 years. Well, let's assume that suppose this company has a price of $32. What is the implied terminal growth? Let's change the required rate of return back to 10%. Anytime I change one of the inputs, GoalSeek is going to run automatically. Why? Because I have this little traffic light over here as a green light. So anytime one of the inputs or a market value changes, or I change one of the options, or I change the unknown, GoalSeek will automatically run to make sure that model value and market value are the same. This little gap is the difference. I formatted that cell on purpose in scientific notation That's basically 2.2 times 10 to the power negative 10. This you're not gonna need this much, but if you wanna fiddle with it, this is the precision button. You can enter any number you want. Right now, I want a precision of the solution 1 in 1 million. If you don't worry about too much, 1 in 100. Again, drop down boxes here only for convenience. You can enter any number. If you want 0.1, that's gonna work out as well. Now, if you're only setting up the problem, you don't want to what you want to call solver or goal seek to run every time you change something. Come over this traffic light and double click on it. It changes it into a red light, which means it's a red light for the goal seek. So if I change any one of the inputs, for example, let's say I'm gonna, by the way, you cannot delete the row for year one dividend, but you can delete the others using this recycle button. So as soon as I do that, goal seek normally would have worked. For example, let me go back to double click and make it solver mode. And I'm going to add a dividend. As you can see, it calculated something weird because year two dividend at this point is 0. That means all the other dividends are going to be 0. So it's not going to work out. Just change the terminal growth to enter a reasonable number for this. Let's say 2. As you can see, it calculated. Now, this is when you are entering the dividends manually. You could also be entering by making the projections somewhere else and carrying them here. I'm going to make this red light for now. I'm going to add dividends up to year 5. I'm going to go to the sheet